Michelle Fields for Next Generation TV, and I'm joined today by Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Thank you so much for joining me.
Glad to be with you.
So you recently joined forces with Senator Kirsten Gillibrand to remove the chain of command when it comes to sexual assault cases in the military. Why do you think that reform is necessary?
Well, I guess the way I see it is that if someone is assaulted, if they have to report it to their boss, and the person who assaulted them works for that same boss, you can see how you might not want to report it to your boss. Whereas if there was an independent branch of the military, the JAG or the lawyers that work within the military, you might be more inclined to report it to somebody who you don't think you directly work for. Because there is at least some evidence that there are assaults that are going unreported because people are afraid to report the assault.
So you have been able to do what no other Republican has, which is to break the Democrats' monopoly on young Americans. Why do you think young Americans find you and your ideas appealing? And what should other Republicans do to sort of follow in your footsteps?
Well, I think that young people want genuineness, they want honestness, but they also want someone who passionately defends your personal rights, your privacy, that kind of thing. And so young people don't have much money, so they don't care as much about taxes. They don't own businesses yet, so they don't care much about regulations. I'm not proposing we change our policy on any of that, but we talk about some of the issues that young people do care about: the internet, their privacy on the internet, justice issues, whether or not you should get a trial before you're either killed with a drone or detained by the police. Should you get a trial? Should you get your day in court? And I think that resonates with a lot of people, not only young people, but I think there are various ethnic groups in our country who once upon a time, or even maybe today, aren't treated fairly by the police or by their government. The ACLU had something recently saying African Americans are arrested 4 to 5 times as much as white individuals for nonviolent drug crimes. And if you talk to an African American, sometimes they'll tell you they don't feel safe when the police come up to their car. And so I think we need to have a government that treats everybody equally, and we're not quite there yet.
And touching on privacy, we now know that the NSA has had a massive program spying on Americans. Who's to blame for that, and what do we need to do to change those types of programs?
In some way, your Congress is for not doing proper oversight. In some ways, though, we haven't been told the truth. The Director of National Intelligence came to the Senate, and he was actually told in advance what the question would be from Senator Wyden, and he lied. He said we weren't collecting any data. So a lot of people are shocked that these secrets were evolved. But you know what? I don't think any terrorists in the world suspected they weren't having their phones tapped. The secret that was revealed really is that all Americans are having their phones tapped. I think we all kind of expected that if they think Mr. Smith is a terrorist, they get a warrant and we think they are tapping his phone, and I don't have a problem with that. But the real secret that came out is not that they're tapping the phones of terrorists, but they're tapping all innocent Americans' phones. Now, they're not listening to content, but they're collecting all of these records, and I think it goes against what the Fourth Amendment said when it says you have to name the person, you have to name the place, you have to name the things to be taken.
Tension in Egypt continues to rise. And a lot of people in Congress are saying that we should stop aid to Egypt. Why do you think that we should stop the flow of funds? You're one of those people.
One, we don't have any money. We have to borrow the money from China to send it to Egypt. Two, I think it's counterproductive. I think it elevates an arms race. Israel's long been our friend in that region, but we're giving arms to a country where up until the last couple of weeks, President Morsi was virulently anti-Israel and said that the Jews there were descendants of pigs and dogs, and we give this person weapons. To me, it makes utterly no sense. One, we don't have the money, but two, would you want to give weapons to an unstable government? And now it's a new government, it's the military, but it's still a pretty chaotic nation over there with millions of people in the street. The other thing is I think when you give money to corrupt leaders, it doesn't endear you to the people. So the millions of people in the street in Cairo, they're not particularly fond of America because they see America giving money to Mubarak, to Morsi. So they see the money going to people that aren't necessarily people they're happy with. So I don't think it buys us friendship in those countries either.
And my last question, a lot of young folks, they're knee-deep in student debt. They can't find jobs. Many of them are living at home with their parents. What is the solution to this massive student loan default crisis?
I'm not sure there's an easy solution, but I would say is there's two areas of our country or our economy where prices have been rising faster than every other price. One would be education and the other would be health. And so you scratch your head and you say, what do they have in common? Well, what they have in common is the government's heavily involved in both. So the government subsidizes demand for health care by making it the expense less than what the market would be. Same for education. We're subsidizing education in a big way. We decided everyone should go to college, so we're giving tons of Pell Grants. We're giving tons of loans. But when we do that, we bid up the price. So secondary education, the prices have been rising so rapidly, and I think there's a lot of waste in administrative costs in the schools. But the only way to drive out waste and to drive down prices is more competition. And unfortunately, it means less government subsidy, and people don't want that. People want, everything to be free, but nothing's really free. There is ultimately a cost. Part of the cost of the debt is the young people who do get degrees, when they get out, they're not getting jobs because of the massive debt has put a kibosh on jobs being created in the economy.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to speak to me.
Thank you.
For Next Generation TV, I'm Michelle Fields. Thank you so much for watching.